Hello, good morning, welcome in. Today we're gonna be doing something different. We're still gonna be crafting, but today you are gonna help me with my pile of mending. I've had this pile of mending waiting for over a year and I have yet to face it. Granted, there is a piece here which is newer, it's from my trip to Japan, but for the most part, this pile of mending has been waiting 1 year for me to tackle it. So today, you're gonna help me mend it, okay? You are gonna hold me accountable and hopefully I will have some engaging conversation along the way. Today, weirdly enough, our company is not a cup of tea, it's a smoothie. Second breakfast is smoothie time for me because I gotta get my fruits in. And I have this weird thing where I don't like chewing fruit. I don't know, it's weird, but I don't mind drinking it. And if you also like smoothies, please keep in mind that when you make a berry smoothie and you put bananas in it, the bananas actually inhibit the berries from doing all their work. Just saying. I'll put a reference to that because I remember reading it somewhere, and that way you can do your own reading on the subject. But, right, what are we going to be mending today? Let's start with the oldest. Right at the top of the pile, we have yarn. And we have knitting. This is my as if tee. And while I love the color combinations in this as if tee, I made several mistakes whilst knitting it. And we're not frogging it back because of the mistakes, because it's still usable even with the mistakes. We are frogging it back because I cannot stand mohair near my skin. And this is Kid Silk Haze from Rowan, I believe. Rowan's Kid Silk Haze. And while I can just hold it on my neck, after a while it starts itching, especially if I'm moving. So I want to frog that back so that we can actually use this top. And what is going to be replacing the mohair is going to be my leftover Suri alpaca yarn. Now this colorway is the Coquito colorway, and it's a dye to order from Brie of the Little Wolf Knits, and I love the base. I am a Suri alpaca girly now. I understand. So we're going to be doing that. The surgery it will require. I think I'm actually going to cut. Yes, I said cut into my knitting because I do not think we'll be able to frog back the mohair. Okay, and I used mock intarsia for this, so I carried it over for the green, and I think I'm gonna have to sacrifice some of that green and also read the pattern because I don't remember how we work this. The second thing in our pile of mending, and realistically probably the one we will finish on this vlog, is this. I have this skirt. I'll be modeling it for you on the screen now. And I absolutely love this skirt. It's just gauzy, lightweight, and it goes with a lot of my crop tops, but the elastic is completely given out. And I know that somewhere in my stash, I have elastic that we can just replace, and I can use this skirt again in all of its former glory. Where in my stash, I do not yet know where it is because I don't know where I put things, okay? I put things so that they are safe, and then in the safety, I just can't find it again. And the last thing in our pile of mending is actually a new dress that I bought. Only used it one time in Japan, and then the back seam of this dress, you can't probably tell, so I'll try to photograph it from a different angle, but the back seam of this dress just completely tore. This is a cotton linen blend, very, very lightweight. And I do have some heavier cotton linen in my stash. So what I think I'm gonna do is that I'm going to just take a piece of that linen, fold it, and reinforce the seam, kind of do a visible mending for it. And yeah, what should we get started on first? I think first things first, we need to gather materials. So let's look for our fabric and let's look for our elastic. Welcome to my stash. It is very obvious that
I try to be organized, okay? I do. Anyway, my fabric stash is not that complicated. Right now, I'm going to be looking for actually, the box of scraps because this is where I suspect I will find my, here it is, my cotton linen blend. Very sturdy she is. I know I have a thinner one somewhere, but for now, this'll do. And now we need to find that elastic. And I suppose the elastic should rightly be in the clear container that is meant for all the sewing stuff, as in zippers and, that kind of things.
Okay, we have elastic, and I think it's enough to go around my waist. And I have the little scrap of fabric that I will probably need to cut to make a whole piece. Not probably, I definitely will. So I was gonna tackle the sewing first because honestly it's easier, but I think we should start by cutting into our knitting. Let's record this tragedy, okay? Okay, before I face the music of trying to frog all this back, or actually I should say cut into my knitting, I'm gonna save the parts of the cotton that I can, because not only am I going to be cutting into it, but I'm also going to be adding length to it because I do think I made it a little bit too short. I find myself unknitting things more often than I am knitting them. Or like frogging back projects and fixing them. But I think that's in the nature of any craft, right? We look at it and we're like, this is not my style anymore. I can save this yarn, do something else with it. And yeah, honestly, also, I've been wanting to do that because this Bernat Softy Baby Cotton in the color Granny Smith is one of my favorite colors in the range, and I'm not sure if they make it anymore. I got it off Amazon the last time I was looking for it when I made the from vest to dress video, so this was left over from that video. Do you know what just occurred to me as I was frogging this back? I don't remember what needle size I used to knit this project, so I think I'm gonna have to go back and watch my own vlogs and see if I ever talked about it. Or did I do a Ravelry project? It would be great if I did, honestly. And we're already cutting into it because this is really tangled up with the intarsia. Just feels wrong. Even if I'm doing it on purpose, it just feels wrong. Ugh. Icky. No, I'm not being dramatic. It feels icky. I mean, if you've ever cut into a project, you can't tell me it didn't feel all sorts of wrong. Warning, the footage you're about to see may be triggering for some crafters. Avert your eyes and skip to this timestamp if you would like to, well, avoid it. I was planning on picking up the stitches with you right now, today, but look, I'm not even exaggerating. That is how nervous I still am about just cutting into this little floof basket. And I need to recuperate. So I'm going to finish my smoothie and go do some other type of work that isn't as nerve-wracking as this one. It is the next day. Today is July 20th, if you're wondering. And these are these needles. Why are these 4.5? Why? These are my interchangeable needle sets. These are from Knit Picks Options, 4 square needles. The only thing I don't like about this set is that the wood is so colorful. It makes it hard to see the stitches sometimes, but overall I do like the feel of this, and they're a very, very beginner friendly price, I think, anyway. At least they were a beginner friendly price for me at the time that I was shopping for them, because we all know that everything has gone up on price. Okay, yeah, we're aware. But before we begin, I gotta show you something that I'm super, super excited about. Oh, it is a giant squishmallow. My husband and I signed up for a Costco membership yesterday. We said we were only going to buy very essential things, but I consider this giant squishmallow super essential because she's not only an emotional support pillow, but she's also a cushion so that I can crochet in bed. Let's pick up some stitches. Okay, so the first stitches that we're actually gonna pick up, it's going to be these back stitches because they are live, and then I will work my way to picking up these front stitches. Now usually I really don't care in what direction I pick up my stitches because if they're twisted, then I will knit through the back loop and that will untwist them, and if they're not twisted, then knitting normally is fine. Okay, this is, I don't know how knitters do it. Like, you mess up one stitch and to me it feels like the end of the world, but I guess when you're a more experienced knitter than you're like, it's okay, I just dropped a stitch, no big deal. But in my case, when I drop a stitch, it just absolutely feels like the end of the world. I feel like I'm gonna throw up, and I don't like that. I don't like that. It's not that I think crochet is better, but I just prefer it because you don't have all these live stitches on the needles, and when you whip back a row, it's just not nerve-wracking. I don't know what your take on that is, but that's just my 2 cents there. And again, I'm not saying one craft is better than the other because I absolutely don't believe that. I believe that, yeah, we have preferences to whether or not we prefer crochet to knit or to Tunisian crochet or to rug making or to weaving or anything like that, but it doesn't mean that one is better than the other, okay? Not in this channel anyway. Okay, I'm gonna continue with this arduous process of picking up these stitches, and I will meet you back here when we have all our stitches happily on the needles.
We've picked up our stitches, so now it's time to listen to this audiobook and knit, 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 knit. So throughout this vlog, or at least some of it, you'll see me hearing the unfortunate side effects of heartbreak and magic. If you're subscribed to my newsletter, you already know what I think about this book. But to summarize it, I did not finish it. I did not enjoy this book. I thought I would really enjoy a book that mixed cooking and magic in it, but it really just felt like there were so many different plot lines and not any of them were developed correctly. So I felt there was the opening your heart plot line, there was a family and dealing with grief as a family plot line. Then a third one for me would be grief and loss and just finding closure within this grief and loss that you're experiencing. And even I would add to that is second chances, because realizing that people grow and you're not the center of the universe. So yeah, my 30-second thoughts or 50-second thoughts on this book. 5 sleeps later. Maybe. Perhaps it was more.
I was working on this morning, and I realized I've solely been working on my as if tee, and we have 2 other projects that also need to be mended. But now I thought let's do some sewing. Okay, let's mend our skirt.
First up, I'm going to measure the elastic by placing it around my waist at the point where I want the skirt to rest. And I'm going to put a pin right where they meet, but I'll probably cut a little bit less just because I want the skirt to be a little snug around my waist. Double checking my measurements, I actually ended up cutting 27 inches around the waist instead of the 28, which my waist currently measures because, as I said, I wanted it to be a little snug but stretch enough to fit over my body. Time for an elastic try-on to make completely sure that we did in fact measure and cut correctly, because sometimes you measure and then you try it on and the measurements have changed, okay? But we're good, we're golden, this fits great. For the skirt itself, I just tried to cut out the old elastic while leaving the gathering seam intact so I wouldn't actually have to gather it myself. However, you will see why this is a problem.
I think I'm gonna have to regather the skirt. Clearly I have too much material for my waistband. So I can clearly see the gathering thread, and I think I'm just going to stitch a little bit below that and gather some more. So what lesson have we learned here today, my friends? A project is always going to take more than you think. It's going to take more time, it's going to take more materials, it's definitely going to take more patience, and it might possibly take more money, depending, on what you're doing. Send help. So, I really thought we were going to finish this quickly today, but
We finished on picking our seam and now we're back to the audiobook we are definitely not going to finish listening to. And after all that stitching, our gathering thread kept breaking and we couldn't gather anything. So, plan B. Plan B was pleating, but my friends, it just wasn't meant to be. It really wasn't. I started pleating 3 different ways because I always forget how I'm supposed to pleat. So I went watch a couple YouTube videos and I thought, I can definitely do this. We couldn't, okay? We couldn't. In the end, I ended up pinning the mid-back of the skirt to the mid-back of the waistband and just pleating here and there to get it to be all gathered within the waistband. And you know what? It worked, so we're going with it, and it's time to move on to our third and final mending project.
good morning. It's Wednesday, the 31st of July, and we're gonna get started on mending this one. Now, as we learned from previous experiences, mending is gonna take a lot more than we think it's going to take.
First step in our adventure is to find a thinner cotton linen blend fabric that I know exists somewhere in the depths of my stash. And here you can actually see the seam and how ripped it is. The fabric itself is fraying after just one use. So I'm gonna iron this all out so that we can actually measure correctly. I know, who am I?
After we pick the overlock seam, open the seam, iron it down again, and place our new fabric right smack in the middle, stitch in the ditch to secure, and then stitch around to strengthen.
Before we begin with any of the actual sewing, I remembered I needed to iron the fabric that I was going to be using to patch this up, and I also needed to measure a lot. Although I will have to say that measure twice, cut once has really never applied to me. Don't panic, these Pilot Frisian pens are truly erasable. The eraser that comes with the pen is much better than the one that comes with the markers. Just saying. sew our pieces together, I am using the running back stitch, and don't ask me to explain that because I know I will fail. So just remember, running back stitch. It's an easy but strong way to seam. At least that's been my experience.
In the last vlog, somebody commented that they agreed with my observation on milk and having too much milk or too little milk left over when you're eating cereal. And all I need is one person to encourage those little silly thoughts to just pop into my head. And this week, I have one on popcorn. So, when I buy bagged popcorn, I want it to be greasy, cheesy. I want to have MSG, okay? Like, if I want fresh popcorn, healthy popcorn, I'm making my own. And I do buy my own kernels sometimes. But if I want just like a quick, just theater snack, don't make it healthy, okay? Give me all the extra butter flavor. I don't know. That's just me. Speaking of popcorn, when you go to the movies, if you go to the movies, because I myself haven't been since I saw the movie Barbie, but my go-to movie snack is actually nachos. It's not popcorn. I know, that might be a hot take, but I don't know. Are you team nachos? Are you team popcorn? Or are you team, I don't know, do they still serve hot dogs at the movie theaters? Anyway, we are going to continue seaming along because I'm not even halfway through the left panel. We will see each other later. Much, much later.
After the stitching, it's time to add some decorative stitches. For these stitches, I'm just going to be doing like a zigzag stitch straight down the middle seam line that I am trying to strengthen / cover up. To do this, to complete this decorative stitching, I'm going to be using embroidery floss that I'm splitting right down the middle. So I'm going to be using 3 strands of embroidery floss. We all need to fight with our embroidery floss before we actually begin any stitching, right? Right? And away we go with our zigzag line. Could I have just used the zigzag stitch on the sewing machine? Yes, but it wouldn't have looked as pretty, or at least that's what I tell myself. Also, if I want to go back and do some more decorative stitching later, maybe some vines, some flower petals, maybe even some mushrooms, I can totally do that because it's an unfinished work of art. What felt like a million hours later, what was possibly just 1.5, it's time for the reveal.
I'm so excited that we worked together in this mending vlog because honestly, I don't think I would have gotten to this anytime soon if it hadn't been for your help. And I'm very happy of the pieces that we managed to mend. Let's do a little recap. For the skirt, we just replaced the elastic, right? But I feel that somewhere along the way, I went a little bit wrong because the elastic doesn't stretch as much as it should, yet when it lays on my waist, it has room. You saw it's a little bit roomy. So I'm pretty sure that has to do with the stitch length that I put on the elastic. It doesn't actually give it room to stretch. But I'm very happy that at least it's wearable. I can put it over my head, no problems, and it fits really well and it goes really nicely with this version of the As If tee. For the as if tee itself, I'm calling it finished for this mending vlog, but it's not actually finished. I did order some more of this Suri alpaca yarn from Little Wolf Knits so that I could do some longer sleeves, because I do consider that with the alpaca it's a lot warmer and it would do as a good fall piece or a transitional piece, or you know, the Florida winter, which is not really that cold. So I'm very happy with that. I do like how it looks sleeveless, so to speak, but I do want my sleeves. And another thing that I think I have to go back and fix with this is the collar. I cast off way too loosely and the collar doesn't sit as nicely as I would like it. But I'm gonna hold off on that until I add the sleeves, because the sleeves will add a little bit of weight, and if it pulls down this way, the collar lays down very nicely. So we'll see, we'll hold off on that. And overall, I'm very happy that we chose to do this together, because these pieces, like I said, they've been in my to mend pile for over a year. The as if tee has been in the mend pile for at least 2 or 3 years, like almost ever since I cast it off and I tried it on and found the mohair super itchy. So I'm very happy that Suri alpaca gives a similar effect and it's a lot nicer on my skin. Once again, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you so much for the lovely comments on the podcast that was uploaded last week. Also, as I mentioned in the previous podcast episode, I am collecting questions for a future Q&A video. Thank you to Melissa for asking not 1, but 3 questions. I am very, very happy with your curiosity, and you can ask questions about, you know, my work, about my crafty life, about a little bit of personal things, whatever you would like to know, as long as it's not like super invasive. I am so happy to bring this to you, and I'm even more excited for the next video that's going to be coming out, which is a pumpkin vest. Now, don't think it's like a pumpkin that you wear on a vest. No, it has to do with the pumpkin granny square that I shared on this channel. And by the way, thank you so much to everyone that's commented and liked the video. It really makes me happy that I created a tutorial that you vibe with, a tutorial that you found helpful, useful, and that really sparked your creative juices. So I'm so happy, I'm so happy. And I'm so much happy with that pumpkin granny square that I created. 2 projects, and the second project will be the one that's going to be released in the next video. It's a bit of a mixture between a making vlog and a sort of recipe tutorial. So once again, thank you so much for being here with me. It truly is a joy to be able to create and share things with you. And always remember that if you do want to support this channel, just watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, all that definitely helps. And of course, you can also join the Discord server community. You can join the Crochet Cakes newsletter for a weekly update on what I've been browsing on the internet, what things that I've been loving, books that I've been reading, all that. And of course, you're never under any obligation. Just liking, watching, commenting, and subscribing is more than enough to fill my heart with joy and grow our community. But if you would like, you can always support us by purchasing a pattern on Ravelry or Etsy. I will say Ravelry is more up to date than Etsy. I tend to leave the patterns 1 or 2 years just in case there's anything in the editing process that we didn't catch. It's easier to update on Ravelry than it is on Etsy. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of crafty time with me today, and I will see you for the pumpkin vest vlog. Bye! And spread my seam completely wide. This, I have no idea if I made any sense. I truly hope I did. What was I gonna do? Right.